Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Hundreds of search and rescue volunteers and emergency response members from British Columbia and out of province gather at the Nelson Airfield for a very sad, very special event. They are attending the memorial of Nelson search and rescue member Sheila Sweatman, the first volunteer ground SAR member ever to die in the line of duty. Sheila started with Nelson SAR 2.5 years previously and loved being involved in search and rescue. She shared her challenges and achievements with all of us as a SAR rookie member in the Call Out TV series.
It's the adventure part that's exciting to me, and the task itself, exciting to know that somebody needs you and that you're there to help.
Sheila was involved in every aspect of search and rescue and thrived on learning everything she could with Nelson SAR.
My blisters got rubbed off.
It's a rescue manicure.
She was always excited about search and rescue. It didn't matter whether it was rope practice or some kind of water practice.
She liked the helicopters.
It was really important to her.
On Sheila's very first mission after qualifying for her occupational first aid certification, she was called out in the middle of the night to the scene of a single-engine plane crash in the mountains. The severely injured pilot died in her arms.
I can't really describe what it was like, what I was doing. I was glad that I was able to respond with the skills that I'd been taught, and somewhat successfully, because even though we weren't able to have the subject survive, I know that what I was doing was working to the extent that what I could do. And it was kind of a helpless situation.
Sheila got through that traumatic experience with the support of her peers and her family. And as difficult as that event was, she did not quit volunteering for search and rescue.
She felt very strong about, in fact, extremely strong, even after that horrible experience, for her first time out of, I want to do this, and she did it.
If anything, that just strengthened her conviction that you've got to do things to help people.
Sheila was part of an organization of nearly 3,000 SAR volunteers from more than 80 communities in British Columbia that give thousands of volunteer hours to search and rescue. They respond to over 1,000 call-outs annually, with a 95% success rate in finding or rescuing people in the first 24 hours, thanks to phenomenal team member dedication and high standards of training throughout the province. While many here today have had to deal with the death and injury of subjects in the field, none have lost a team member during a mission. Until now. As always, first and foremost, their hearts go out to the family.
Our team and all the SAR volunteers in British Columbia send their condolences to you. This is the first time we've lost a member in active duty, and we hope it's the last time. We're all thinking about you today.
She was part of our family as well as your family. It's a tragic loss for all of us, and I feel for the family.
Really, really sorry to see such an event like this happen. It's a wonderful turnout of colleagues of Search and Rescue to show honor to Sheila.
We wish you all the best in the future, and we support your daughter completely, and we're so happy to have spent time with her.
To the Sweatman family, our deep condolences for the loss of Sheila, and really affected all of us throughout the province.
We're all here just sharing what we can with each other, and hopefully the family will get some sense of the community that their daughter belonged to and how much we care about her.
We had been told that there would be a parade, a flyover, and a flotilla. I was surprised at the impact that it had. I knew it would be hard for us, but it was obvious it was hard for everybody.
A lot of people that are here, that you will see here for the ceremony itself, they weren't asked to be here. They came, they wanted to be here. And it's no different if it's a line of duty death with a paramedic, a firefighter, police officer, Canadian Forces personnel. People want to be there, they want to show their respect for Sheila. They want to demonstrate what Sheila was, what she did for her community, for the province.
Among the hundreds of mourners is Swiftwater specialist Chris Armstrong.
It's an overwhelming event. There's many people coming here. You know, people I've met at conferences from all over North America, the U.S. Overwhelming support. Sheila would have been blown away by this.
So, you get knocked out of the boat. Happens quite often. Quite often you got your blade.
Chris spent many hours training and working alongside Sheila. He was her search and rescue mentor at Nelson SAR. They were good friends.
Sheila, you ready to belay?
Ready?
Then the stretcher team ready to belay?
Ready?
Chris was also site leader during the Swiftwater accident that took Sheila's life. As the parade begins the slow march to the park where presentations will be made, the accident is on the minds of many. It happened during a call-out at the Goat River near Creston, BC.
We were called out to the Goat River. There was a despondent female that had been missing for 10 days. A canoeist had paddled down the river and found a vehicle upside down in the middle of the river, the middle of the Goat River. There was evidence that a car had hit the bridge abutment and had jumped into the river off the abutment. We were asked to go and access the vehicle, make sure it was the right vehicle, and assess if maybe the subject was in it or not in it to determine what form of search we were going to do.
Several teams responded to the call-out. It looked to be a good training opportunity on a seemingly straightforward mission.
We had decided that the safest way to do it was to set up a tension diagonal across the river, put a cataract as a stable rescue platform onto that system, and lower the boat above the upside-down vehicle that was submerged in the river, and use a drop camera on a pole to actually look into the vehicle and see if someone was in it. After about a half hour of trying to look into the vehicle, we realized that the current was a little too strong and the roof had been collapsed, so we couldn't get a good visual. The only thing really left was to try to pull the vehicle. We're already set up, we're on the vehicle. Exposing two people to a limited amount of danger to get the vehicle hooked up and pulled out is far better than spending days and multiple people searching log jams and dangerous entrapments downstream.
SAR members searching a river for missing persons must comb every nook and cranny where a body might be entrapped. This can be dangerous. Throughout Swiftwater training, safety is always emphasized, and members are constantly told never to expose themselves to inordinate risk when searching for an already deceased person.
Are we taking any risks for a dead person?
No.
None at all. Anyone who enters the water, even if it is this deep, is tethered. Why?
Fall and go.
Fall down, they're going to get swept. Right? The tether's going to help them get back up. So no risks.
Everything seemed very easy, very normal, totally standard, But what we do has inherent risk and danger, and at any moment, things can change. And they did.
The raft somehow turns sideways in the river. The added pressure from the current causes the main line to break, as it is supposed to do when under too much strain. Sheila is managing a short length of cable attached to the car underwater. She becomes entangled and pulled into the river.
Everybody panicked. I threw my PFD on, I had my dry suit at my waist. Yelled at the RCMP to get an ambulance and ran down the river to the scene. By the time I got there, she was entrapped, she was alive. Everyone was flailing and trying to do something about it. They were endangering their lives trying to rescue her. The cold, hard fact that I had to deal with was that she was not rescuable. She was entrapped by a steel cable in a place where she was inaccessible. And every one of us were acting with our heart, not our head. I physically had to grab people and pull them out of the water, get them all to stop. Sheila is a very strong girl. She was well trained. She instinctually followed that training right to the end. She knew she was entrapped by a cable, yet she pulled her knife, she took a breath, and she walked up her leg in the current, and she did everything she could to free herself. Twice. If that had been a rope, she'd be here right now. But in the end, there was nothing she could do. Everybody was in a massive state of shock. The biggest fear I've ever had in all of organized rescue had just taken place. You just don't know what you're capable of until you're faced with it.
I want to express my deepest sympathies to Ms. Sweatman's family, friends, and colleagues during this difficult time. Her death is a tragic example of the risk that search and rescue volunteers take every time they respond to a call. It's also a reminder that we owe an immense debt of gratitude to those in our communities like Ms. Sweatman who are willing to take that risk for us. The day we heard of Ms. Sweatman's passing was a somber one for our staff.
After the accident, Sheila's emotionally shattered team needed to be there to bring her home.
It was devastating. It really was for all the teams involved, and we decided that the teams who had been there on the day she died were going to be isolated with a viewpoint for themselves because they really wanted to see, and that wanting to see was closure for them. They wanted their member to come home.
You know, a lot of our management and our leaders were rightfully so feeling that, you know, the team that was initially there is compromised. You know, they should leave the scene, they should go home, but these are friends, these are family. You can't tell them to leave. She's still in the river. So the decisions were made that those who were directly involved would stand by. The other team members that came in that weren't there for the initial incident would do the actual rescue. We rebuilt the same system. We had all agreed that it was the most appropriate way, and we went about the process of recovering her.
We were all shocked into reality that we were going in to recover the body of one of our own. And it's one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do, for sure.
I think it's probably the most powerful thing I've ever seen, and probably stick with me the rest of my life, is that once she was recovered, we let all the members go out. All those involved and all those that knew her, all those who were dressed and certified, went out there in one big group, put her on their shoulders and carried her out of the river. They all needed to do that. It's closure for everybody. It's important.
Once the team had brought Sheila out, there was still one more thing to do.
The initial mission is still there. There's still a family down the road waiting to know if their loved one is in the vehicle. So we removed the vehicle. It turned out that she was possibly in it. She probably came out of the vehicle and removed it. But once the vehicle was recovered, it was decided that the event needed to be shut down. Everyone needed to go home. Everyone needed to process and deal with what happened, and we'd come back and search for the deceased girl.
A few days later, however, an RCMP helicopter flying the river spotted the deceased subject.
You join a great family of people who share your desire to help others. And as Sheila said once on a TV program, you get to do neat things. There are risks. We are in the risk business. But where else do you get to tramp through the forest in the middle of the night in a rainstorm for no other reason than to help someone else? Not many people get asked to do that. And if we ever doubted our calling, you just have to understand these numbers. In the few short weeks since Sheila's accident, the unpaid professional SAR communities of BC that Sheila was a part of have answered another 100 calls.
Another 100 call-outs in BC alone, all done by volunteers in the short few weeks since the accident. By this time, investigations into Sheila's death are well underway, involving the RCMP, Emergency Management BC, WorkSafe BC, and various insurance companies. These investigations will continue for months. All of the SAR members who witnessed the incident, as well as others who were there, are interviewed and re-interviewed. As site leader, Chris Armstrong is under particular scrutiny.
Offensively, try to catch the hole, and if you can't, swim to shore.
When you're sitting in a room with a tape recorder and you're being asked very specific questions, they're not just, well, what happened? They're also, well, who are you to make that call? What is your certification? Where does your judgment lie in all this? You're in the hot seat.
Search and rescue volunteers aren't paid, but they are liable, as legally accountable as their paid emergency response counterparts.
Every angle's being looked at. The ropes we use, the manufacturers, the techniques, everything. And so it should.
In the past couple of decades, the whole SAR scenario has quickly blossomed from Good Samaritans with a pickup truck and stretcher to helicopters, high-tech, and very sophisticated hardware, with specialized teams often functioning within extreme technical environments.
Pulling himself back out. Here he comes. Good job.
We train in dangerous technical rescue. This is a choice we've made. This is something we do for our community. You look across Canada, across North America, there's very small groups of people trained to that level who are out there doing this kind of work. We are the people you call. Because if we don't do it, Joe Public's gonna go out there and do it, and we're gonna be on another call.
A few months after the incident, the Swiftwater team managed to go on their annual rafting trip down the Fraser Canyon. It was a time to remember their passion for the outdoors, to bond, and start to heal.
This is far from over. There's still a coroner's inquest. There's still a lot more to come. But one thing, shockingly to me, that hasn't changed is that even though these people who volunteer to go out and do this, to do the practices, to gain the experience, to even be able to volunteer at this level, those people that were there that witnessed the traumatic event, nobody quit. Nobody hung up their harness and said, that's it for me, I'm not doing this anymore. This group is still willing to go out on a call and risk their life. They're a strength in our community, and I'm super proud of them.
Sheila's dedication to search and rescue sprung from a principle that you had to give back, that you had to help other people. She felt privileged to enjoy the mountains in British Columbia. She was keenly aware that there were risks and knew people could get lost and hurt or worse. Search and rescue was an outlet for her high principles and her abilities in the outdoors. In the end, she sacrificed everything to help others.
Sheila's family and her search and rescue family miss her deeply. She embodied the type of volunteer spirit and dedication that has resulted in many saved lives and closure to families of missing loved ones. Volunteer search and rescue will go on in communities across Canada because if they don't come to the rescue, who will?
All units,